I'm ready. All right, so I haven't really did tips from the top, and so I've decided to implement it this month and kind of going forward. And you're our second guest, and I'm super
I love
excited
it.
that you decided to take the time. It
Yep.
doesn't, you weren't obligated or anything, even though you're my friend, but still, I appreciate you taking the time out this evening to pour into my team. So I'm gonna have you kind of just introduce yourself and kind of tell your story, and then I have some questions for you after that.
Okay, perfect. So my name's Erin Tweed, and I am an Ambassador Diamond. We live outside. Oh, all of a sudden it went to me, so I'm like, oh my gosh. We live right outside of Houston, and I'm originally from the Midwest, so I'm actually from St. Louis area. Grew up on the St. Louis side of things, and we ended up moving here about 5 years ago. And I was a new mom. I was working full time as a nurse, so I was more in the administration side. So I was there Monday through Friday, 40 plus hours a week, so not the 312s. And then Kyle, my husband, was in wine sales. And so we are new parents trying to figure everything out. When I found this business, Finn, I think, was maybe 3 months old because I wanted the hair, skin, and nails. I did the mom chop, and then I regretted it. And I can't just put in hair like you can, Rachel, and just all of a sudden magically it's long. It doesn't work like that for me. So, I was like, oh my gosh, I need something to help my hair grow. And, I saw a post about hair, skin, and nails, but we just couldn't justify spending the extra money. We had just switched our son childcare. So you pay for what you get, and you figure that out along the way. And so we switched him childcare, and it ended up being $500 extra more a month than we had budgeted for. So we're paying like over $1,000 a month with childcare. We've got mortgage, car payments, student loans, credit cards. You start to take out from savings, and then it's like you have no savings, and then you're putting more, and it's crazy. So eventually, my enroller said, have you thought about making money using the products? And I was like, oh my God, but I don't know, but tell me how to do that, because I was planning to go back and get my master's in nursing. I just didn't have that. I didn't know exactly what program I wanted to go into. I was just picking something because I knew that was the only way I could potentially make some more money. But it was going to mean more student loans. It was going to mean more time away from my family. And it wasn't a guaranteed pay increase because the hospital system that I worked for, they had like a career ladder. So it was just like a check in the box for when you level up. So I was like, oh, I was just overwhelmed. So I ended up getting started. I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell skinny wraps. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do, but I'm passionate about anything that I fall in love with. And so I was excited to try the hair, skin, nails. I was excited to wrap. I think everything after you have a baby is different. It doesn't matter if it still looks okay. It's still different than when before. And so that was me. I was happy with, I had great results after having my son, but things were just different. Things shift, and you're like, oh, so I wanted to wrap. So I just got started and started posting on social media and started talking to people. I remember my first weekend in, I posted a hair, skin, and nails before and after, and I was like, oh my God, y'all, like, I'm so excited to try this. Like, who wants to try it with me? And I signed up 6 customers because people knew that I was going to be using the products. I was excited. I was getting people on the phone, and just telling them all about these products. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome. Like, I just got my 120 in free product, and, so then I bought some more wraps and hosted a party and, did all those things. So started posting. My second month in, we hit Ruby. 4 months in, we hit Diamond. And then I went to conference, and conference like lit a fire under me. And, I had a lady, this is kind of a long version of my story, but it was the night after so Limelight was the first one I went to, and that was when they launched the energy drink. And so, I had this lady come up to me, and she grabbed my hand after the event. She's like, the Holy Spirit is just drawing me towards you. And I'm like, okay, like, did you have too much to drink at this party? Like, I know we all had energy and there's drinks. Like, I'm a little nervous. Like, are you sure you're talking to me? And she was like, yes. And she's like, she just kept asking me about my business and life. And, things. And she's like, if you just keep doing what you're doing, she's like, I already picture you up on that stage. Like, I see you on that white couch. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, because I never envisioned myself, like, you know, like I said, I got started because I wanted to make $500 extra a month, but I never like envisioned going beyond that. Like I everything I was like, okay, I think I can do this, but it wasn't a long-term goal until that moment. And so left conference the next month, hit double diamond. Then a day shy of my year anniversary, we actually double promoted to presidential. And then 20 months in the business, we hit ambassador. So like a year and a half ago. And then we've taken our 2.0 spot to double diamond. So, you know, if you followed our journey, I know some of y'all have prayed for us. We appreciate it. You know, we started an infertility journey the month that I went presidential. And so it works allowed us to pay cash for that whole, you know, all of the treatments and everything else, cash for IVF and our transfer. So now we're expecting a baby girl in 3 months. And so, you know, it's just such a blessing that we have this business.
Hey, I love that. Congratulations. Okay, yeah, I love that. Okay, so let me see. The first thing I kind of want to ask you is take me through, because I know you worked all the way up to presidential. Like it wasn't like you. It was a while before you came home, and Kyle was the one who was at home. So how did you guys decide that? And then how did you still work and like go president? Like presidential's not a game, you know what I'm saying? Like how did you go presidential diamond and still work?
So if you want to know the honest truth, this is what happened. So we went to Phoenix for a wedding, and it was my first preliminary check for double diamond. Okay. And I remember it was like a little over 6,000. And, you know, that was more than I was making as a nurse. And I was like so excited because I was like, yes, I just wanted to make at least a little bit more than I was making as a nurse, because I was like, as soon as I can quit my job, I know that I can, you know, run with this. Well, little did I know, 3 days later, my husband would walk into his job and just quit. Just quit. Yeah, that's the truth. I'm just being honest. So he hated his job. He was working 6 days a week in wine sales, and, you know, he had to work. Holiday season was the busiest. And so he had just come off that, and he was miserable. So once we kind of got through that, I was like, okay, like now my goal is to make sure that I can come home as well, and we can survive, you know, on an income. And so really, I remember after I hit double, kind of after that point, I didn't know who my leaders were going to be. I didn't know who I was going to work with, because the nice thing with my presidential chart is I had a triple and I had a double. I needed 2 brand new diamonds. And so I ended up signing 2 girls within a week of each other. And so I put them as accountability partners, and we just all ran together. And they both promoted in July, and that's what took me to presidential. So I kept working. It's kind of like one of those things, like I didn't have another choice. My goal was to get home, so I just did everything that I had to do. You know, my husband had already left his job, so it was like, 1, I had to make sure I was supporting us. And 2, like I wanted to be able to come home, and I wanted to live comfortably and be able to do the extra things that we had on our vision board. So, you know, I don't really even know how I did it. I just did. You know, it's like one of those things, like, I don't want to say it's a blur, but it's like you just do what you got to do. Just like putting food on the table for your kids. Like, you don't know how it happens all the time, but you know that you make sure that they get fed. And so that was just kind of the mindset for me, is I'm going to do whatever it takes, you know. So if it's, you know, doing a bunch of online parties or calls, or I set up so many potential calls with people, like driving to and from work, you know, whatever I could do, meeting with people, you know, or having phone calls on my lunch break, meeting with them when I got home. But a lot of it had to be communication between Kyle and I, and saying, okay, like, you're going to have to take over some stuff that's going on at home, you know, whether it's dinner or bath time, those kind of things. So that way I can really focus and put a lot of energy into our business. And so, I mean, it was totally worth it. Yeah. I mean, I came home 14 months in the business, but I worked all the way through presidential.
Okay. So, I think you're yellow.
Okay.
But that maybe it's just because you're sweet. So you tell me, what color are you, and how does that work for you in terms of your business? So correct me if I'm wrong.
So a lot of people say I'm red. I don't know. Every time I take a test,
Well, I think in order to be a top earner, you have to have red. There's no way you can be a top earner without having red. But yeah, go ahead.
So I think, I honestly, I believe I'm truly a rainbow. Like I truly believe that, because when I take the test, I come out a little bit higher on the red, and then the rest is kind of a rainbow. But, you know, I think the yellow side is my nursing. You know, I've always had that passion to just help people. So, you know, when I look at this business, I'm very red in what has to be done. You know, what am I doing to build my business? I'm organized. I'm a list maker. I get things done, but then I'm also compassionate in the fact that I want to really help people achieve their goals. So it's not that I like feel bad for them, or, you know how they always get the example, well, I'll pay $25 for your wrap. It's not like that, but it's, you know, helping people truly find what avenue is going to work best for them. So, you know, product wise, and taking that time to, you know, come up with a perfect plan. So I think I'm a rainbow. I don't know that I'm that much blue. I don't know, maybe a little bit, and then a little bit of green, because some of it does intrigue me, but, you know, I would say more high on the red and the yellow.
Okay, so I can see that. I think you have to be. I don't think that it's possible to be a top earner without that red. Yeah. It's almost like, you know, the McFarland's like blue completely, but they have to have some type of red in them, or there's no way they would have the discipline to be top earners. So I get that. I can see that. Okay, so what does leading from the front look like when you're having a rough month? So like, oh, and you know what? This is a really good one, because being your friend, like, I've seen you have some bad months, and you would never know. Like, if I was an outsider, I would never know that you were having, I mean, like, some bad days, like really bad days. How do you do that?
I mean, the big thing, you know, I mean, I think a lot of times it's either like life happens or things happen in your business, and so people get so caught up in the negative that you lose so much focus on the positive. So it's the same thing with like running with people that don't really want this business. You're pouring into all the people and wasting all your energy on these people that don't want it, and like, why don't you work it, versus focusing on those few that do and running with them. So leading from the front for me is leading by example. Like, if I'm preaching to my team, hey, you've got to be sending out your messages every day, you best bet that I can screenshot my messages and send it to my leaders and say, look, this is what I'm doing. Or I'm setting up calls and potential calls, or, you know, hosting online parties for our team. You know, I have to still fill my steps to success. And so I think the speed of the pack is the speed of the leader. When there are rough months, you know, life happens, and, you know, there's drama or other stuff. It's one of those things that it's like, I give myself a 5-minute pity party, but then I'm like, okay, this circumstance I honestly can't change, but I can change how it affects my business. And that's the one thing that's like, that's the amazing part about this, is you can honestly work even harder and get paid more. Like, that's, you know, that is the one factor that you can change. You can't necessarily change life. You know, stuff's going to happen, things are going to come up, but it's how you respond in those moments. Are you going to let, you know, life sit there, you're going to dwell on it for 10 days, and then you're going to be mad at yourself because your business suffers? Or are you going to have that 5-minute pity party, and then you got to move on? You know, it's not to say that I'm not compassionate on the fact of, you know, when life things happen, you can't, you know, stop and have that moment, but it's, don't get so caught up on that. You know, there's only so much that you can handle, and there's so much that you can change. And so you have to look at the things that you can change in your life. And those are the things that I choose to focus on.
I like that. It's very true. I think that's the biggest thing that most people don't realize. Like, when you stop, then what? Like, life is still messed up. Like, and now you're in a worse situation than you already were, and it doesn't help anything. So, yeah. Okay. So, well, Brianna told me to ask you this. What does an ambassador diamond do every single day? Like, what do you do? What does your day look like?
So, y'all, honestly, I do the exact same thing that I'm doing since day one. I am a list maker. I am a morning person, so I get my energy in the morning. So that means I'm up between 5:30 and 6. Now, it was a struggle when I was taking my nausea medicine, and that would like put me, you know, I was more drowsy in the morning. So that was really a struggle my first trimester. But now I feel good that I'm up. I'm eager to go. And I just actually finished reading The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. So if you haven't read that one is awesome, because it just helped me like even give my pregnant self a kick in the butt, where I was like, okay, like, doesn't matter. I'm not going to have sleep for the next couple of years anyway, so I might as well start it now. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. So I get up and I start my day with, I grab my cup of coffee and I have my daily devotional. I have the Bible app, and so I try and pick one, like a topic on leadership or business. And I don't know if y'all have seen that, but there's actually all kinds of topics on the Bible app. So it doesn't even have to be, just pertaining to like learning parts of the Bible. It could be, something on your business. So there's a 30-day plan with John Maxwell, like the laws of leadership, but it actually connects into the Bible. So that's the plan that I'm doing now, but I'll have one of those, and then I'll do like a lifestyle. So I have 2 or 3 different devotionals going. So I'll read those in the morning. I have quiet prayer time, and then I'm doing some type of self-development. So, some mornings it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. If I'm finishing up Secrets of a Millionaire Mind, so I'm doing that one on audio. So sometimes I save that when I'm walking my dog in the morning. So I do that, and then I go ahead and I start sending out some follow-up messages. So I'll send follow-up messages on Instagram. But the way that I do that, because obviously this is early in the morning, people will be like, oh my God, Erin, you're crazy. Like, how are you messaging me at 6 a.m. or, 6:30? I actually will put my phone into airplane mode. So my service is off, because for me, I'm the type of person that, let's say I message somebody and then they message me back, I have to check it right away. Like, I hate notifications. It drives me crazy. And so this keeps me out of distraction. So I know that I can look at all my potentials and I can say, here's my follow-up. I can be thoughtful in my message and take that time, and I'm not getting distracted with, oh, Samantha over here, she messaged me back, or so-and-so posted in the team page. And so then my phone still stays in airplane mode. And then at that point, I'll typically log in on my laptop. I'll sit in my office and log in my laptop on Facebook and kind of just catch up. I always send like a clip of my devotional to my leaders, asking them what do they need from me, post in our team page. And then when it's a reasonable time, when somebody could get a text message, aka 8 a.m., my phone goes out of airplane mode and all of my messages will send, okay? Because it's back in service. So that's the
Will it send for Instagram and Facebook, or just Instagram?
So that you can do it text message. Facebook, sometimes it will let you pull it. It just depends. Like, sometimes it's spotty because it doesn't have service. So sometimes it will allow you to pull up X amount of messages. So if I'm doing that, sometimes I'll just make a list. I'll go through my list on my like desktop Facebook and just say so-and-so. For some reason, like when I have my Facebook pulled up, those notifications don't drive me nuts like it's my phone. So I could let that sit there and have notifications, but I'll go through my Messenger and start pre-sending my messages on my phone. Same with Instagram, because you can do that when your follow-ups.
You know how Instagram will pull it? Does Facebook do the same thing? So if you turn it off off airplane mode, does it just send them?
Yeah. So they'll go through. The only ones that won't automatically send is like if I send to an Android, it'll just say message send failed, but all you have to do is go and click that and say resend, and then they all go through.
Right.
So those are the only ones. But that, for me, has been a lifesaver. And so then that way, okay, I've sent out all my messages, I've sent my follow-ups, and now everything else is just like the cherry on top for my day. It's like everything else that I do is just added and what I needed to get done. And I've done that all on pretty much my own little power hour. So that's how I function. I know some people, like to have other people on their power hours and stuff. I don't know how I would physically. I like when I'm in the zone, I get in the zone in the morning. And so that's what I do. And then I typically will exercise and take a walk, like I said, listening to my audiobook. So I have to get everything that I need for me done personally. That's my time in the morning. So, exercise, I have to make sure that I'm pouring into myself. I'm trying to be the best version of myself. So that way throughout the day, as things come up with our team or they have questions or they need you for something, then it's their time. But you're not worried about, oh my gosh, like I've been helping so-and-so all morning and I haven't gotten any of my messages or anything for my business done, and you're stressing. So I get all of my stuff done within the first couple hours of waking up.
That's good. It's kind of similar to what I am, just not as organized. But okay, so where do you sign most of your DTs from?
I always start, most of the time it starts on Instagram, but I always try and connect them on Facebook as well. So if I can find them on Facebook, I'm going to add them because I want them to see me on as many platforms as possible. I'll add people Facebook, I'm in like some IVF groups and stuff. So I don't get super aggressive on those because I know that there's a lot of crazy rules and people like hound you down for that kind of stuff. But a lot of that is more relationship building, where Instagram, I feel like you can take if you're really having that instant connection with somebody, it's not where I feel bad, like, oh, I have to wait 2 weeks to message them. It's like, hey, I really love her profile and like she's been liking my stuff back. I'm going to go ahead and send her a message because I'm not a beat around the bush type girl. And so I want to let you know, like, I think you'd be awesome at what I do. Are you interested in extra income?
How do you find the people on Instagram?
I search different things. So I'll search boutiques that I like. I use the geotag. So whenever you tag yourself in a location, I'll go and click that. So, if you're really looking to build like your local team, click those geotags of where you checked in at the restaurants or, the gym, those kind of things. And it's going to show you who's last posted there. Same thing with like, if you go to like the malls, any of those kind of things, that is a huge variety of people that are checking themselves in at the mall that you can connect with. So there's so many different ways to do that. But I really like to just find things that I'm interested in. So boutiques, restaurants, places that we've been. So that way I know it's not just like me going and searching twin moms and adding all these twin moms, but I don't have anything to relate to them. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I want to make sure that when I'm adding to my network, it's people that I can relate to, like, oh, they love the same shirt at this boutique that I liked. And so now when I see them, I'm interacting, and then I can message them like, hey girl, like, oh my God, I absolutely like fell in love with that shirt too. Did you order it or something? You can start that conversation that way and then bring it up.
What would you say are your top IPAs let's say somebody has a very busy schedule. What would you say in terms of priority are the top IPAs?
So I think making sure that you're adding to, like, I would say my top 3 would be adding to your network every day. So making sure you set a number for yourself. Typically, I will add at least 100 people on Instagram a day. So I'm adding on Instagram every morning, and I add on Facebook too. I won't do as many because Facebook gets crazier with different. I don't want to get in jail. So I add 5 to 10 on there, and then I think messaging. So I think sending out new potential messages, but also messages that are following up with people. And then I think personal development. I feel like you have to pour into yourself because everything else can get you down. Or, let's say I always notice like the days when I haven't made it a priority to get up and do my self-development. Those are the days where I'm like getting defeated on like something silly. And it's like every other day I feel like, ooh, I'm empowered. Like I'm good to go for the rest of the day. Like nothing can stop me. And so that's what I have to make sure, that I'm being the best version of myself. Because, your team's going to ask you questions. Your team's going to look up to what you're doing. And so you want to make sure that you're putting it all out there.
That's good. Okay, so I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it. Have you ever taken a break from your business? And if so, how did you regain momentum?
Honestly, I haven't. I was just talking with Alyssa, who's my upline today, and she was like, honestly, like we don't know a slow season because if you don't talk about it, you don't know about it. Like if you're not like, oh, my business is slow, then that's not what it's like you bring what you think. And so if you're putting it out there and you're like, oh my gosh, like I haven't signed anybody, you're not going to sign anybody. But if you have that mindset, like, I don't know what a slow season is. This is just a season to be planting seeds. It may not be your harvest season, but it's a planting seed season. So that's what I like to focus. I there's seasons for harvesting tons of seeds, and then there's seasons for planting tons of seeds. So it may be, but one of the things that I've really focused on, I think sometimes people can get so caught up on seeing mass enrollments or all these mass things going on, but it's like, you have to think quality versus quantity, okay? So stop stressing yourself out. That's why they have the steps to success, is because they want it to be 3 quality distributors that you're adding to your team. Doesn't mean that you like, because typically if you go out and mass enroll, like let's say 15 people, 3 of them are probably going to work. So stop stressing so much on like all this mass enrollments and really pour into those 3 people that are quality distributors that you know are going to be putting in the effort, especially with this $500 shopping spree. It's like those are the people that you want to be pouring into. Help them with their hundreds list. Help them come up with messages to send out so that way they're getting those 4 customers. But honestly, I mean, I haven't taken a break because I love it and I'm passionate, and I know that my team looks up to that. And so if I were to stop, they're going to stop, and they deserve way more because they are going for amazing promotions, and I cannot stop because I'm not stopping them.
I like that. I knew that answer. Okay, so this is a good one to me, I think. I'd like to hear how you deal with this. So how do you handle conflict with your downline? For instance, you're telling them everything they need to hear, but they get offended or defensive. Now what? What now? Or what now? What do you do?
So I think this is probably where the yellow comes out, because I typically will try and figure out, like let's say they're just, they're not interpreting something that I'm saying, and I've said it like 50 million times, and I find myself getting annoyed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you not understand this? I ask them like, how do you best learn? Because if we're sitting here and we're having a conversation about this same thing and I don't feel like it's setting in because you're asking me the same questions, is it better for you to read some documentation on that, or would you prefer a video? Because you have to remember, everybody learns different. So that's probably one of my biggest faults that I've learned over the 3 years is, everybody learns so differently. So especially like when somebody new gets started, I know on our team page, it used to be like this, where everybody would get tagged in like 50 million videos. And it's like, okay, but if you have that green personality, all they really want to do is like read some paper. They don't want to watch any videos, so it's trying to cater to them. And maybe find, talking with, I like to always brainstorm with my leaders, some of my triples, because they all have different personalities. I have one that's pretty yellow. I have one that's very red. And then I have one that's kind of in between. And so if I'm feeling like, okay, I'm being really red to this person, I need help in like toning it back. So I'll go and talk to my yellow and say, okay, so this is how this situation's going, and just have that playoff conversation, but trying to help guide them. But I mean, you don't want to be beating a dead horse, but it's trying to help guide them in the way that's going to help them best succeed. And I mean, there's some people that are just going to take it and leave it. And, I've definitely had those conversations where I have a girl that still messages me like the same thing. And so instead of, telling her the answer now, I just point her in the direction. And she might get a little bit mad, but I'm like, you need to know where to find this information, because this may be the only way that it's going to sink in.
Okay, so what do you do when they're not responding or following up with you like they should? When do you let go?
The distributors?
Yeah.
So a lot of, we're pushing hard like the first month or so. And one of the things that I like to do when somebody just gets started is like, what do you want from me? What do you envision your leader doing for you? Do you envision us Zooming once a week? Do you envision us like, do you envision me following up with you every other day or daily? What are the things that you need? Because for me, I didn't need anything. I just needed Alyssa to answer the phone when I called. But then there's other people that, want you to check in on them frequently. So I want to make sure that I'm meeting their needs and we're on the same wavelength, because, I don't want to be following up with them once a week, but really they need me more frequently. So I asked them, like, what's your vision of your sponsor? Like, what do you need me to be? Because we're going to be pushing hard for this, next month, because I want to help you get your 4 customers. And then we're going to take it to that next step. In that first month, I think you learn a lot about somebody. And so at that point, if they're really not taking advantage of that, I tell them, you know what, girl, like, I'm here when you're ready to really start working this. And, I don't come off and say, oh, my time's valuable, but it is. And so that's the thing is, I really want to pour into those leaders and those people that are stepping up and working their business. And so I just let them know, I'm here whenever you have questions. I'm here when you're really ready to give this your all. But I don't want to do either one of us a disservice with me continuing to follow up with you, and you're not ready, So I think it's okay to be blunt in that fact of, some people they may have signed up and they're not quite ready, and that's okay, but you just let them know, I'm here when you are.
I like that too. Okay, so question. So with Alyssa, and people probably have no idea what in the world I'm talking about, but with her being your enroller and Tiffany being your sponsor, well,
no,
mentor, right?
yeah,
You're under Tiffany, but Alyssa enrolled you, right?
yeah. So it goes Tiffany, Alyssa, and then myself.
Okay. So Alyssa's underneath Tiffany.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that avoids my question. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna take one more. This one just came in. Since you worked up until presidential, how did you manage to coach and develop your new DTs? I think you kind of went over this though, in terms of your time frame.
Yeah, so I did because a lot of my team is not local, so I would do online launch parties. So I would group them because obviously, like, I didn't have a ton of time to be doing, every single night a launch party when it's the same stuff. And I think, when you can get more people on, it builds the hype and people get excited when so-and-so's asking a question. They're like, oh, okay, like I wanted to know, it just brings in a lot more attention. So I will do group online launch parties. And then with my newbies, one of the things that I always like to set up, now, when I was working, we didn't have Zoom, so I was setting up like phone calls. And so we would have like a 20-minute slot where I would walk them through eSuite and kind of go over those things. Now we have our own little beginners boot camp, so there's no notifications. And I think, Rachel, I shared that with you. But there's no notifications, and I have a video on there that walks them through eSuite. So they're getting that step by step. So my main goal now is to set up a 20-minute coaching call or Zoom, depending on what their schedule looks like. So that way we can touch base on questions, go over their hundreds list. If they need me to share my screen and kind of walk them through eSuite again, we can do that. But I like to get that on the books within that first week. So that way I can make sure that, some people I think are nervous to tell you that they can't find things. It's like, okay, log in. You give them step-by-step of how to log into the training, and they'll still tell you, like, I haven't done my training. Well, I didn't know where to find it. And I'm like, really? Like, it's step-by-step right there. But sometimes you just may have to share your screen, walk them through it, and then it's like, it clicks. That's what I'm saying. Like, different people learn different ways. And so maybe reading that doesn't mean anything, but me walking them through that and showing them how to do it the one time, now they're golden. So it's really trying to cater to each person. But I still did the same thing. It's just, now we can use Zoom and stuff like that. But doing those things. And then we did a lot of, what are they called? Like the YouTube lives or Google Hangout Live or whatever that was. So, I would ask some of my leaders, who wants to host like a newbie to Ruby training? And so we'd divvy up some topics. And so we would be hosting those so people could watch the recordings and just offer them, different avenues of ways to learn and, help them best succeed.
So how do you keep your emotions in check? Like, how do you work with other colors? It's like a red or a green. Like, how do you deal with them and not get so frustrated that you like snap?
So that's sometimes, if I notice, because I'm thinking of one person in particular, she's asked me like almost the same question. And so that's kind of the situation where I will start pointing her and where to find the information rather than like helping her word her conversation or helping her, she'll ask me about a product and I'm like, oh, here's a link for a product coach. Type this word in and you're going to find your answer. So I'm helping her be able to find the information because obviously if she's a green, she's probably going to want to read through all those Q&As on, product coach. And then I have a very red, like triple. Kelsey Thornton. So she's very red. She's in your face and she just gets me hyped. But sometimes, I have to know that when that conversation, I have to tweak how, I don't want to say it because I don't ever come and criticize her, but, we'll always brainstorm thoughts off of each other. And so I know that I have to respond in a certain way so she feels validated as well, because sometimes I think reds, they're like, boom, this is the only way to do things and, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like that too, because I'm guilty in the fact that I'm like, oh, my idea is awesome. Why doesn't everybody else want to do it? But, it's kind of being like stepping back and saying, okay, like this isn't just my team, it's everybody's team. It's all of my leaders' team working together. And so, just like when we host our online parties, for like the first few weeks, I would have different leaders do the party pad. And I was like, but it's kind of one of those things that's just like, you have to let your babies go. You have to, let them like come out. And so I'm like, okay, but now the awesome thing is you just get to watch them all. You can see like their demeanor and everything change. And so it's, it's one of those things that I'm just like, it's all a learning process. And so sometimes you may not have the right thing to say. Sometimes you may, sometimes they may take it the wrong way. But, you have to look at, like, where is your heart at? And so having those deep down conversations of, this is how I mean it. So, just if it's conversation or Zoom, or maybe you have to write them, like a text, because that's how they can interpret it better. Just bringing it around that way. I hope that even answered the question.
I think it does.
Okay. Like, maybe not.
I think it does. Okay, so do you have any final tips or anything like that that you would like to share?
Yeah, so I was actually, so I'll have two things. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of times when you hear on Zooms, like we all talk about consistency is key. And I said, earlier, like I really am doing the exact same thing that I'm doing since day one. I'm a big planner. I do a lot of prep. But somebody asked me on another Zoom, they're like, how are you developing all of these strong leaders? Like, I mean, I have powerful leaders on my team that, are killing it and they take over. So, I mean, the power of layered leadership, but they're like, how are you doing that? Because I see when you get on Zooms, a lot of times you interview them. And so I'm like, yeah, like, because honestly, I wouldn't be here without my team. And so sometimes I think, as leaders or you're growing into, you can't have so much control. You have to know that everybody, it's their business. And so that would be probably my biggest piece of advice is, let people kind of blossom into that person. So it may take them a little bit longer, but that's okay. Or it may take them really quick, but each person has something that they can bring to the table. So it may not be something that you're like, oh my gosh, I love that. But, it could eventually be their strong suit. So, let them step up into those different roles, even if it's just like little things, I used to be guilty, like I said, with the online parties, and like I'll do them all just because I know the right way and I know how the party pad's supposed to be presented. But it's like, okay, like I have to let other people do that, because when they get up and they're starting to show the party pad to their team, then their teams know how to present it, and then they can go out and, duplicate those actions. So that would probably be, my other last tip.
Nice. I like it. That's good. It's definitely something to take with us. All right. Well, thank you so much for having. Does anybody have any last questions? It's been like quiet. Y'all show Erin no love in the chat box. Like, where y'all at? Yeah. So I don't think I have any other questions. I really appreciate your time and hopping on here with my team. And I guess they're saying thanks now. And yeah, they're saying thank you. I appreciate it, but I'll get you the recording. And yeah, talk to you later. Thanks, guys, for hopping on. I'll get you guys the recording here in a minute.